Welcome to The Table, the podcast where we share real stories, struggles, and victories as we walk together in faith. This is what you're in for today. We're talking about community and how it can grow your relationship with the Lord. I am a podcast girl for sure, and this conversation was so encouraging to me. I loved it in real time when we were recording, but getting to go back and just listen while I edited, I don't listen to myself normally on the podcast, was so good. So I hope you enjoy it too. Hear me say, there are so many ideas for finding community and then loving on your community buried within this episode. All right, let's get into it. Come to the table and join us as we talk about community with our guest, Becky Jenkins.
Welcome back to the table. I'm going to let you introduce our guest today, Miss Becky Jenkins.
I have known Becky. I've been counting it up. I think it's over 15 years now. I met her first when our oldest son needed to go to a Mother's Day Out program, and he was able to go to the church where Miss Becky is the children's director. So he was 18 months old around that time and started going there and loved it. And so all of our other older kids ended up going there as well. And she then became my boss. She had asked me if I would be willing to teach a pre-K class there at the Mother's Day Out program. And I just so happened to get to have my oldest son in that first pre-K class. And then a year later, my second son was in that pre-K class with me, and my first son went off to kindergarten. And here's where I really came to love Miss Becky. Not only is she a great example of what a godly marriage looks like, they've been married, her and Mark have been married for over 30 years. She has been in ministry for almost all that time, but she's a children's director. Her big events of the year when we're talking about community are working on Mother's Day Out. She reaches people that don't normally come to church because they want to come to they want to have a place for their children to come. And so she reaches kids that way. She's highly involved in Vacation Bible School. She has a huge event every year that helps our community, and thousands come, I think, every year. Trunk or treat. Ministry is at her heart, and her ministry really focuses on community and family. And that year that I had my second son in that pre-K class, my oldest had gone to kindergarten, and he struggled. He didn't struggle because he didn't know what was going on. It's that the Lord was calling me to homeschool him. And I did not want to leave my job with Miss Becky. I loved being there. She made it such a positive work experience. It really felt like a gift instead of a job. I loved being there with my children, but I loved her and I loved working for her. And I had to come with her with, the Lord is leading me away from here to homeschool my kids. And we had a good cry together, but she said, you have to do what is right by the Lord and by your family. And she has supported me ever since. I walked away in the middle of the school year, and she supported me the whole way. She's checked in on me. She's loved me ever since. She's reached out multiple times, but since then, she's now sitting on the board for our local Chamber of Commerce. So she's in our community constantly. When I thought of the spiritual discipline of being in community and encouraging your community, Becky Jenkins does it as well as I've ever seen. And I don't want to praise her because I know that it's the calling that she has for her life. Over her life, she really feels led to do this. And she, as tiring as it seems, she pours into the families and into this community. And I wanted her to explain that and just give examples of how she does it, even when it feels exhaustive. I couldn't think of anyone better than my dear friend, Miss Becky Jenkins.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot to live up to, Jenna.
You do it anyways. You already do it.
Well, that was a wonderful introduction. And Miss Becky, you have been, and you were an early encourager of us on the podcast. I can remember months ago, Jenna texting me excited because Becky Jenkins listened to the podcast and she's going to share it. And you have just encouraged us along the way. So we are going to talk about a spiritual discipline, and that is being in community. And Jenna gave such a good example of why she thought of you when she thought about this particular practice. But before we get there, I would love to let you tell us a little bit about yourself if you want. Jenna already told us that you're married to Mark and that you are in children's ministry, but Becky, who are you? Tell us a little bit more about who you
Yeah,
are.
so I have grown up in White House. I've lived here since I was 3 years old. My husband and I lived in Springfield for about 6 years, but White House was always home for us. My husband was handpicked by my mom. My mom was a teacher at East Robertson, a local school nearby, and she handpicked him for me. And we got married shortly after college. I've been married 32 years. We have 3 kids, almost empty nesters. But we are just loving life. I've been in my current role as children's director here at Temple for about 12 years, 12, 13 years. And for as hard as it is so rewarding. And just, the kids make it so worthwhile, and seeing their hearts change for the Lord. It's just it's hard to imagine doing anything else with my life right now. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Well, there's some stories even in that intro that I think I need to hear, but I'm going to save those for another day. All right. So every guest, I know that you listen to the podcast, so all of our guests answer these 3 questions, and these were really. We did this because this is what people should be doing in their community. They should be talking about these 3 questions with the people that they do life with. So I'm just gonna kick us off, and we'll go through those 3. All right. So in the last couple of weeks, what is a way that you have fueled your spirit? What is something you're feasting on to grow your relationship with the Lord?
So, my mom passed away unexpectedly in January. Um, actually, in February. She got sick in January when I was on sabbatical. Every 5 years at work, we get a month sabbatical. And so the last year has just been super hard and emotional. My mom and I were super close. Sorry. Um, the smallest things bring back memories of her. And I know that the Lord has given me those memories, and I'm so thankful for them. But sometimes I just can't shake, the tears. And so in this season of grief, I've really been feasting just on the fact that God is still so good, even in my grief. And if I weren't grieving, if I didn't have such a wonderful mom and wonderful family foundation, I wouldn't have this grief. And so the Lord is just giving me just a season of grief. That sounds so weird, but a season of grief that I can process through, and I can remember all the good things about my mom and our family growing up. But I'm just feasting that He is so, so good. Even in my hurt, He is right here with me. And in the past couple of weeks, He's given me a couple of songs that I just have on repeat. And it's Flowers by Samantha Ebert. I'm not sure if that's how you really say her name. No One Knows, and then Rest in Me by The King Is Coming. And then most recently, a lady that helps me with our children's choir sent me the song Light to the Stable. And it's just a Christmas song. And I'm typically not a Christmas song connoisseur, but this song has just been on repeat. It's just uplifting, and I'm just feasting on that. Golly, without that light to the stable, where would my life be right now in that season of grief? So that's what I'm feasting on. I'm feasting on a sadness that is joyful, if that makes any sense.
Well, that was profound. That's not even what our topic is, but I feel like we could have had a
Hmm.
whole conversation on that and finding joy in your grief. So thank you for just for sharing. I know that was something that's very dear to you and personal. And so thank you for sharing that because I think people are going to really be encouraged to hear someone in the midst of grief say
Hmm.
what you just said. We're also going to put those songs, we'll tag those
Awesome.
songs in the show notes so people can listen to
Okay.
them too. All right, question number 2. So I know that you got a lot of answers for this one, but tell me, where are you finding fellowship
Where
recently with other believers?
So most people would think that I'm an extrovert, and I'm really more of an introvert. My office, I chose for my office to be away from the other staff members. I'm down here in the children's wing, kind of by myself most days. I can choose to stay in my office all day and really never interact with anybody else. Um, Even as a child, my mom would say that I would play by myself. I was happier when I played by myself, and um, I don't have to be around a lot of people a lot of time. I have a large number of acquaintances. I wrote some of this down just because I wanted to be sure to say what I wanted to say, but I have a large number of acquaintances. And while I'm typically an open book, usually an oversharer once you get me talking, I have a very small number of people in my community that I feel safe with. The Lord has given me lots of people in my life through ministry and my kids and all of those things, but he did give me two ladies through junior pro football, crazily enough, that are kind of my circle. They're my best friends. We're all three super super close friends, and those would be the people that I find most community. And those are the people that know me inside and out, the highs, the lows, the joy, the dark, all the things, the people that I can be real with. Because in ministry, this is kind of self imposed. It's hard to be real when you're in ministry, to share to share the hard times with other ladies whose kids I'm ministering to. Not that I should be put on a pedestal, but a lot of times you're looked at differently. And if you share hard times or share that sometimes it's a struggle to come to work, they don't take that as well. They take it a different way than they should. They forget that I'm just a person. I'm just a woman. I'm just a mom that has a hard day. And so I kind of limit my openness to a very few people. I love all those moms that I get to minister to, but sometimes you just can't be 100% open and real with them.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
wisdom in that.
Hmm.
I think, Jenna, have you found in your role as a pastor's wife, have you found something similar to be
Absolutely.
true?
I think it really
You have to be very careful.
you do, and you really have to learn to that this is not about I'm doing this for the Lord. Because if I was doing it all for me, then I would have given up. I would want to give up often
Hmm.
because it's just heavy. It's not the people that are the problem, it's sin. And sin is heavy and dark. And when you carry that day in, day out, um, it's just really, it's a lonely place, but it's a blessed place. So absolutely.
100% agree. It is a very lonely place, but a very blessed place. And I would say, we're not only carrying our sin, our issues, our joy, we're also carrying all of that of all the families that we're trying to minister to because they need somebody to talk to and to share with and all the things, but it becomes very very heavy when you're carrying all that for the people that God has placed in your path.
Hmm.
I think there's wisdom too in having a few that are your
Hmm.
closest friends that truly know everything about you. And I want to be really careful because I don't want someone to say, well, I can fake it then to everyone else. Like this is an excuse to fake it. I don't think that's what you're saying at all. And you can correct me, Becky. I think that there are some things that you share with those really dear friends, but you can still show up in a really honest, appropriate way for everyone else. And I think you've given us a really good example of what that can look like, especially in a ministry role. Like, I just think that's so
Yeah,
unique.
I learned very, very early on that you just can't come in and spill everything to everybody. It's okay to say, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of having a hard day today. Most people will understand that. But if I say or do something, if I'm frustrated with my job or something at work, if I say that to the wrong people, they can take that and it can hurt their walk with the Lord. It can hurt their fellowship with the church. And I don't ever want to do that. But I did that very early on. I inadvertently caused someone to not want to attend where we attend, um, just by being real and being open. So you have to, you have to be careful, and there has to be some boundaries with what you share and what you don't share, or what I share.
For all of us. Yeah, whatever role we're in. But yes, I'm glad to have you as an example for that for sure. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. All right, the last question. We are just meeting each other, and so I always feel a little bit guilty to ask this, but I do it anyway. So, okay, tell me, in the last couple of weeks, what is something that you are needing forgiveness for in
Yes,
Jesus?
yes. So I'm a people pleaser. I'm an introvert people pleaser, but I'm also a very rigid schedule keeper. And so inevitably, I'm making someone mad or upsetting them because we haven't stayed on my schedule or my calendar, or I can be very blunt. I think Jenna would agree with that sometimes too blunt. And I've really, God has really worked in my heart on that just because I think it, I don't have to say it every single time. I think that when we know ourselves well enough and are willing to admit our flaws, that's when forgiveness can happen between mature Christians. That you can go to them and admit that you were wrong or that I was wrong and ask for forgiveness. It's when we won't look at ourselves truly in the mirror that God gives us through His eyes, and we're not willing to admit our flaws. There's an apology, but there's always a but. That's not true forgiveness. And that's not seeking forgiveness. It's an ultimatum. I'm sorry, but I was still wrong. I was still right. That's not a true offer of forgiveness. So I won't go into specifics. I will just say that there have been things within the last couple of weeks, specifically at my job, that I've had to go and admit that I didn't handle a situation the right way, and have a mature conversation about that particular instance. And it's been well received on both sides. Both parties came away still loving each other, still loving Jesus, and still able to worship and fellowship together. So it can happen.
Yeah.
That's a great example, and I bet the people that work for you really appreciate that you're willing to ask for forgiveness when you know you're wrong. Because I think that's a quality not everyone
I'm
has.
I'm a reactor. I don't usually pause very much before I react, and so Jenna's laughing. So there are lots of times. I will say, most every time that I have reacted poorly, God keeps me from sleeping that night, and I know that I need to apologize. So yeah.
Mm, good example. All right, Jenna, before I pivot, anything that you want to add or say about this
No,
lady
she
here?
just laid it all out. That could be enough right there. She brought up so many good
I
points.
know.
Then we're supposed to talk about community.
I know. Okay, let's talk
All
about
right.
community. All right, so Becky, it is not surprising to me that this is the first conversation that we're releasing about spiritual practices and spiritual disciplines, because our podcast truly came about because of this community need. that we had, and for other people to understand how important it is that we were created to live in community. And I think even in a recent episode, we mentioned what I would consider like the scripture of the podcast, which is in Hebrews 10, where it says that we should not forsake the gathering of everyone together. I'm like paraphrasing Catherine's version, and that we should encourage and edify each other to continue on and to keep going. And if that feels like the definition of community and the why behind why we do it. So the purpose of these conversations is to talk about how the spiritual practice grows your relationship with the Lord. So my first question to you is, how do you think being in community, grows or deepens your relationship with the Lord?
Serving and being part of the community is almost just second nature to me now. I've always been involved in high school. I was involved in all the clubs, all the things. And yes, I was a rigid schedule keeper even in high school. And so every time that I told somebody the other day that every time that I'm introduced for the chamber, it's Becky Jenkins from Temple Baptist Church. And so we don't shy away from what I do, who I am, what I believe. And it has opened so many doors. People will come up to me after a chamber luncheon and say, "Hey, will you pray with me?" Just because they figured out that I work in a church and I'm a Christian and I talk to the Lord. So they've asked me for prayer. Or, "Hey, can you come and do this at our school?" And while I can't talk, sadly, about the Lord as much at a school, I'm there, and people can see me trying to pour into the kids and inviting them to church. But to be able to serve the Lord in our community is on one hand very scary. It can turn a lot of people away in our community, but thankfully we live in the South and it's a little bit more accepted. But I will say the last 3 years serving on the chamber board, I have seen my prayer life grow just because of the number of people that have come up and asked me to pray. And while they may not know how to pray, or they may not even know who I'm praying to, they may not even believe who I'm praying to, but they know that there's power in prayer. And so they come and ask me to pray for them. And so I've grown closer to the Lord that way. I've grown closer to the Lord because different people have asked me to speak at different things. Public speaking is my least favorite thing ever. And so through the course of the last 2 or 3 years, I've been asked to speak at several different things. And that strength and that gift and that little bit of a talent is solely from the Lord, because I will say no every single time. And for whatever reason, in the past 2 years, I can't not say no. I can't not say whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. But it's every turn of my life, I've seen God show up. And if I refuse to share that with my community, I might as well just stay home.
I have so many things. Jenna, I don't want to like talk the whole entire time. Do you want to tackle anything? Got any
Well,
thoughts?
as an example of her, she does not like to talk in front of people. She doesn't. But when I asked her, I sent her a text, and within the next 2 seconds, yes, exclamation point. To me, it's just what the Lord is doing in her. And she's willing to say yes, not all the time, but she's willing to say yes for Him. It's not about us when we do these things. And Miss Becky has always been very good at that. And that example for me is that she will do whatever the Lord calls her to do. And she really seeks out the best way to serve the community with guidance from the Lord. And I think that is just I wish I had that vision quite like she does, but she just exemplifies it very well. She says yes when the Lord is giving her an opportunity and she knows it will grow someone else's faith or show him, she will set that light on a candlestick, on a candlestick. Her faith is on a candlestick, and she will say yes with an exclamation point.
I've really tried to take the attitude of I would rather be uncomfortable and red as a beet and shaking in my shoes, and I may cry a few tears out of the nerves, but I would rather be uncomfortable and proclaim the Lord for who he is in my life and who he could be in someone else's life than to say no. And I've really struggled, Mark, we've had a decision to make in the past 6 or 8 weeks, and I had an opportunity, and I feel like my time, and I'm not sharing anything my pastor doesn't know, or my friend, my church staff doesn't know. I'm beginning to question how much longer do I have in ministry. I'm 55 years old. I'm a children's director. How much longer am I going to be relevant? And what's next for me? And so recently I had an opportunity that might have been what was next for me. And so I know what's next is coming, but I don't, at the end of the day, this opportunity I didn't feel like was the what's next. But I went home one night and I said to Mark, what if I've said no to what God has put in my place? What if that is my what's next? And he said, you're saying yes to the right things. And if we've prayed about it, we've come together, we've talked about it, we've talked to our kids about it. And if we don't feel like it's from the Lord, then that is a no. And so keep saying yes to the things that we know are from God, and say no to the things that are not from God. And so it's hard, man. It's super hard. I really wanted to say no, Jenna, but I know that you would have prayed about asking me to do this, and I could not turn down what God had put in front of me.
Right. Well, you that was a perfect segue into what I wanted to say about all the other responses that you've had. Is two things really. One, it sounds like, especially in your life, you have to depend on the Lord for all of your decisions, because you've highlighted several times now that people are watching you. And it might not be what you're saying, it's what you're doing. And that's where your ministry comes from, is how you're treating these kids that you're around. Or when you're in a school doing an activity, it's how you're treating the kids. That's how you're sharing Jesus with other people. And I think we could all learn from that example, that we're all being an example to someone all the time, and that's how they're seeing Jesus. And we got to be real careful about how we're portraying him to other people. Okay, but my question was going to be, how do you know when to say yes and when to say no? And I think you answered that so well, that you have to just it sounds like you went to your husband, you went to your family, those closest to you, in prayer, had them praying for you to make that decision. And sometimes we get sucked in and say, like, well, any opportunity, I'm saying yes because it's for me. And I think you've given us a really good framework for how to say yes and when to prayerfully say no. And I'm glad you didn't say no to us.
And
Here today.
The opportunity that was before me, man, it felt good. I'm not going to sit in my chair and lie and not be prideful about it. It felt good to be wanted, to be needed, and the thought to be able to use my skills somewhere else. But at the end of the day, that's not where God was calling me. So you just, I have made some decisions, and I haven't consulted the Lord, and He puts me in my place very quickly. So I won't say that I've done it. I've done a great job 100% of the time, but I'm learning to seek Him first before we make big decisions.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about how community has grown your relationship with the Lord. Talk to me about what community looks like in your everyday life.
So I was talking to a lady, a mom called me this morning in my ministry, and she is hosting a prayer time this afternoon for a gentleman, a fellow dance parent, and she's just nervous about hosting this event, and wanted counseling. What do I say? What do I say? And I was like, I don't think you have to say anything. It's not a big production. Just thank them for coming. Thank them for joining your community together to pray for this dad and his illness, and then lead the time of prayer. And so as she was talking, I was telling her about this, and she sent me this. And so I just want to read this because it's exactly what I would have said had I had the words. So to build a community around you, you have to be the one who just goes beyond just thoughts and prayers, and actually serve the people in your orbit in intentional ways, especially when there's an obvious need. Don't just ask, let me know if you need something, do something. And so now I've forgotten what the question was, but to do, that's just, that's kind of, I don't know why. I won't say that I've even tried to do this intentionally. It's just who I am. I want to be the person to do something. I want to be the person that goes and serves Thanksgiving meal at the schools. I want to be the person that will send you the card. I want to be the person that when a kid, is at a basketball game and he misses a shot and he looks up in the crowd, I want to be that encouraging smile to them to know that it's okay. Or the mom and dad that are struggling at home and they don't know what to do. Well, I've been in that spot. I've made many, many mistakes in my marriage, and only by the grace of God has my husband continued to love me. And I just want to be that person to serve, to make somebody else's life a little easier, a little less messy. Before this job, I was the CEO's assistant at a large healthcare corporation in Nashville. And I had several people say, why do you drive to Brentwood from White House? It was a heck of a drive every day. And I just loved what I did. I made his life easier. I was his right-hand person. I never had the big aspirations to have a big-time job. My aspiration was to make somebody else's life better, to be somebody's community, to be somebody's person when they need something. So I don't know if that answered the question at all. I can't even remember what the question was now. So
it did answer that. Yes. The question was, what does it look like in your everyday life? And you gave us a great example. And no, you did great. That was great. I love what you read too. You're gonna have to text that to us about what community is, because we talked about this in really specific ways on the podcast before, but I think this is a really broad way to think about how can you be community for someone else. And that's going to lead me into my third question that I really want to have some discussion about is, we have people that listen. I have people in my life that I know they want community. They are searching for it. They are looking for who the Lord has put around them as their community, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get it started. And so how would you encourage someone who feels like they don't have community to find it, to start it, to take the next step?
To show up.
Mm-hmm.
Just to show up. The biggest example that I can share about showing up is from my dad. In high school, I was a cheerleader, as a basketball cheerleader. My dad traveled throughout the state of Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, and no matter where he was, I was, in my mind, it's every time, but I know that it wasn't. But I would look up, and we would be in an away game, and I would look up, and my dad would be there. And he was only there maybe for a quarter or two of one of the games, and then he would get in his truck, and he would drive back to wherever he was out of town. He just showed up for me. My mom did too, but my dad did more away games and that kind of thing. My mom was a school teacher, like I said, and so she had her own things to do and ball games at her school to show up for. But that just has stuck with me through my adult life, that my dad was there. He just showed up. Jenna knows my dad. He would be our person at Mother's Day out if we needed maintenance stuff done or stuff on the playground taken care of. 9 times out of 10, it would be my dad that would show up. If I called him today and said, "Hey, Dad, I need this." Well, at 83 years old, he would show up for me. He would be there. My husband traveled the majority of our first years when we were married. And I don't know how many times I called my dad in the middle of the night, "Dad, I'm hearing something." And here he would come. He would come over. He just shows up. And so that's what I would tell somebody, is to show up for the people that you're wanting to make your community. If it's fellow basketball moms, show up, speak, sit with them, and it's uncomfortable. You're like, who's this person walking up to join me? If it's at church, if you're wanting to find a new group at church, be bold in approaching the people that you want in your community. So many people are so shy, and they're scared to make the first word, and they're scared to, join that clique of people or group of people. Just show up, be bold, approach those people, because I bet, and this is what I've told my daughter. Last year she was a freshman at Tennessee Tech, and she would just call, and I don't have any friends. I don't want to go do anything. And I'm like, you have to make the first step, because of the group that you're looking at that you would love to join. At some point, every one of those people will probably like, "I'm scared. I don't know anybody. I don't know how to join this." Or if it's the person standing over here by themselves, they're waiting for someone to speak to them. So go speak to them. And they may not be your best friend, but at least you spoke to them. At least you made them feel seen. And then maybe next time somebody else will make you feel seen. And it's hard. Ladies, women are so hard on each other. And that's the saddest part, I think, of being a female, is that we just can't love each other for who you are. If you homeschool versus a public, you send your kids to school, you can still love each other. You can still come together and be in community. I'm Baptist, you're Methodist. We can still come together and love each other and show community and fellowship to each other. You're married, you're a single mom. Everybody has something. We need to stop being judge and jury for people that we don't know, or even people that we do know. And just love. Mm-hmm. Just love. Jesus calls us to love one another. And so many times we take the word love out and we put judge in. And that is definitely not what we're called to do. And we're so hard on each other. And there are times that I'm like, I wish I could just be a man where I just don't let things bother me, because, they just kind of seem to just let things, go by the wayside, and they don't judge each other. Or if they get upset with each other, it's over in 30 minutes. And I struggle a lot with women and how we treat each other. We need to be kind. We need to be kind to each other. That was way off topic.
No, that's great. I'm gonna keep with it. I'm staying on the train. Okay, this is off the record, so if you don't want to answer this, that's okay. Or if you don't have any idea, I'm curious. In your time in ministry, in your life, we'll go that far. How many times have you taken the first step, said the thing, reached out to the person, showed up for someone, and they turned you down? Percentage.
I can't. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, I can't really think of a time where somebody just said no. Now we may not.
Yeah.
We may not. Like I said, we may not be best friends. But if I'm walking down the hallway or walking into Kroger and I see somebody that I don't think they're going to turn their head. How sad would life be if people did that? But I can't think of a situation where I was just told no, or hey, I don't want to be in your circle. um,
Yeah. And I bet you do this all the time. So I want to encourage people, listeners, me, myself, like it is uncomfortable. It can be really uncomfortable to have to be the one to be like, hi, I'm the new mom here, or hi, I'm, whoever. But you do this all the time, and you can't even think of a time where someone
I
turned
can't.
you down. And so if I do it one time this week, the odds are in my favor
Yeah,
that someone's going to say,
yeah.
hi, nice to meet you. I'd love to do that, or I'd love to have that conversation, or here, sit
And
here.
even just taking the time just to slow down and open the door for somebody, or hold the door as somebody's coming in to the store that you're in, instead of just letting it slam behind you. Just stand there and hold the door open. Just show general kindness to people, and slow down and notice when somebody needs help, or notice if somebody needs a smile. You can tell when
Hmm.
somebody's having a bad day in the grocery store. You can tell. Or if, you know, how many times have you seen a young mom with a cart full of kids that are screaming, and she just looks so overwhelmed? You know what she needs? She doesn't need judgment of, golly, I wish those kids would hush. Or what is she doing bringing all those kids to the grocery store? What she needs is, we've all been there, because we have. So why act like we haven't? Validate her, give her worth, and let her know that we've been there, and that it is okay, and tomorrow's a new day, and those kids are going to be great. It's it's just slowing down to notice people.
Jenna,
I
I'm
think
going to
it,
stop talking
I
so you can
think
talk.
it's the way that culture has changed.
Mm-hmm.
We are so big about boundaries and not wanting to interfere that we've distanced ourselves to the point that we're scared to step in and show up. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that has happened not just because of COVID, it's just the way that life has turned. We're more focused on our phones, we're more focused on
Yes.
ourselves. We're more like we try to do all our relationships on a screen rather than in
Yeah.
person, face to face contact. It's like we don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. And I tell my
Mm-hmm.
kids that all the time. You've got to be able to look someone in the eye and have a conversation with them. And
Yeah.
we do. We have to know how to do that, because that in itself is showing God's love in us, is to take the time to notice who he notices. It's taking the
Mm-hmm.
time to put value into that person that he created that you wouldn't normally talk to. But I think because of these boundaries that we're setting for ourselves, and we don't want to interfere, a lot of times Becky said, we'll say, we'll say, well, let me know if you need anything. Of course they need something. They will say, no,
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about it. I've already got this taken care of. I can make dinner on my own. But do they have to? I think I can be the one. The thing that keeps standing out to me, and this, be who you want. Like, be the person that you are looking for to other people. If you're
Yeah.
longing for community, then be what you're looking for. If you're looking for someone to show up for you when times are hard, or even when things are great, say you don't have a lot of family and you want to have a holiday meal, host it, or say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, let's go to Cracker Barrel together.
Right.
Be
Right.
that person that, be who you're missing. Be what you want and show up. Even if they say, I already have that taken care of, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, I'll let you know later. Send them a card, send them a text with a prayer in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to cross boundaries, I think that's the problem, is we're so scared of hurting someone's feelings or interfering with their life that we're missing the mark of being in fellowship with each other. Being in fellowship means what Miss Becky said, show up. Show up when,
Show up, and if you invite 10 people, and 2 people show up, be thankful for the two. And I used to be so caught up in numbers and the people who weren't here. Why wasn't Jenna there? That would have been something Jenna would have come to. And a gentleman in our church, Mr. Jean, said, "You are so caught up in who wasn't here that I was missing the people that were there." And so be thankful for the whoever shows up, the 1, 2, or 10, or however many, and pour into them instead of being worried so much about the ones that didn't show up. Be with them. You know, I- Jesus, Jesus, Jesus was always with the people, and so find your people and join them in worship and in fellowship and in community, and pour into them. And I'll say, I talked last week at a Momco group, and I talked to myself as much as I was talking to them about biblical priorities for your family, and just as a reminder that until our relationship was God, marriage, and then children, until we have the right priorities in our life, the rest is not going to be work out. It's going to be total chaos. So make sure that your community with the Lord is set and on the right path before you start trying to do all these other relationships and being out in the community or out in your wherever. Make sure your relationship with the Lord is right first, and then your spouse, and then your children. And it's at that point that the Lord will do work in you to allow you to grow your community for Him.
There's such good
Wisdom.
practical things that you guys have both shared. To just show up, do the thing, and then to maybe be a little bit uncomfortable, even if it takes like saying the first
Yeah.
thing or sending the first text or showing up when you're not sure other people are going to be there too. Uh, I want to like tie it all back together because Miss Becky, I've heard you say several times in the last 51 minutes that you don't really know why. You might not have said this. This is maybe Catherine's paraphrase. That this is just how you are. You are just someone who enjoys community and seeks out community and shows up for other people. It's just who you are. Like it's just the way you were made. And I would like agree with that 100%, that that's what Jesus did. He shows up and you are created in his image. And so there is a gift in being able to do that for other people, that we all are created in his image. So we all have the capacity to lean into that and to be the love of Jesus, the hands and feet for Jesus. That's what I keep thinking of, for the people around us, even if we don't know who that's going to be today. And we're talking about growing with the Lord, but I don't know how you can act like Jesus if you don't know
Yeah.
him. I don't know how you can do this if you're not in relationship with him. You don't hear the promptings,
Right.
maybe to ask that mom if she's drowning today, to send the prayer to someone. So I'm going to ask if there's other things in your notes too, but I think you've just really given us a lot of good wisdom about how being in community intentionally grows your relationship with Jesus. And I'm so appreciative, even for the things that I've gotten to take away from my life today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would just say, and Jenna is really, really good at this. I got one recently, a postcard, and I know her handwriting before I ever flip it over to read the sweet words that she sent. If somebody comes to mind, I hate to say this, but send them a text, send them a postcard, send them an email, send them something to let them know that the Lord prompted you, that the Lord put them on your mind. It sounds so cliche, but you just never know what that postcard, how that's going to change a person's day, or a text. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Jesus loves you, whatever. As you drive past their house, lift up a prayer for them. If you see a flower arrangement, there's a little lady in our church that she loves poinsettias. And so a couple of Christmases ago, it's been several Christmases ago, I took her a poinsettia, and she has grown that poinsettia. It is ginormous. It's just ginormous. Whereas mine, at the end of the Christmas season, mine go in the trash bag and get taken away. But she has grown that. And so she will, every time she sees me, oh, you have to come see my poinsettia. And it's the smallest things make the biggest impact for people. And again, just showing up for, I've got just, just a little list of stuff that you could do, but, sharing a verse with them, go into the games for kids. And while that's great for the kids, but for parents to see that you want to pour into their kids, is also pouring into them. And then you can start to build a relationship with adults, and start conversation just because you showed up at a basketball game, or a football game. Send a funny meme if something comes across. Send something that might cause them to laugh. Offer to babysit for young families. Take them a meal. And then in periods of grief, not to bring that up again, but in periods of grief, just because of where my life is, when my mom passed away, and there were 400 people in the receiving line. And I'll just be 100% transparent. When we would get a notice about a funeral, somebody passed away, I'd be like, oh, I gotta put that on my calendar. How am I going to get there? Because sometimes it's not convenient to go and stand in a line to hug somebody's neck. You've stood in line longer than you've been able to talk to the person. But anyway, but literally 400 people stood in line to pay their respects for my mom. And it reminded me that is so important, that in somebody's time of loss, to be there for them. And maybe it's not that you can go stand in a line and pay your respects, but a card, or a 6 months down the road to check in with them, because that grief is still there, and that hurt is still there. And so it's really been a reminder for me to show up for people in that way, and to remind them that we're here for them, and that, if somebody, I was at CCS a couple of weeks ago doing chapel, and Coach Porter, their athletic director, I think is what he is, was my coach and my teacher in high school. And he was asking me about my mom and dad. He had not heard about my mom. And so, like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to get up and lead chapel for these kids and be excited and encouraging, he was asking me about my mom, and I am just in tears. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, to be able to speak about my mom and to share tears. Again, if I didn't have those tears and I didn't have the joy from the grief, how sad of a life have I had this, up until the point that she passed. And so just taking time to notice people where they are, to share just a tiny bit of yourself. And that's, I think every time I go out, or every time I'm able to share with kids, or sharing a Thanksgiving meal, serving the Thanksgiving meals at school, I'm not just serving a Thanksgiving meal, I'm sharing a part of myself. And so when you get to the point that you can share a part of yourself with others, that's the part that's Jesus coming out in you. I'm not eloquent in my words, but I wish that I was. But just be willing to share a little piece of yourself with the people that you come in contact that are in your community.
You did great. That list could have been 12 pages long, and I was here to hear it all. So I'm so glad you shared it. Jenna, what else is in your notes? What do you want to say before we wrap up with Becky?
You were sharing our Hebrews 10 always. We always talk about stirring each other up to love and good works. But when I thought of Miss Becky and asking her, oh my goodness, I'm going to get emotional. The Lord so heavily put this section of scriptures on my heart, because I see this in her because of what the Lord has done through her. And I can't even see my scriptures now. But it's fine. It's in Philippians chapter 2. And so I hope this can be an encouragement to you, Miss Becky, that you keep going and you keep doing what you're doing and serving our community. It said, if there be any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercies, fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind. Let each other, let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. That's chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. She puts others before herself, just as Jesus did. And I think if we all were more Christ-like, it would look like this, that we put others before ourselves. And we would make that our goal, because how are we going to reach a lost and dying world? It's by loving them like Jesus.
Absolutely.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up. I'm certainly not going to add anything to that. But Miss Becky, I can't say thank you enough for you being here and just how encouraged I feel from listening to this conversation. I cannot wait to share it with everyone else. But thank you for not saying no. And thank you for being such a great example to us of what it looks like to live in community.
Thank you for having me. This has been a huge blessing. I have been a nervous wreck all day, and I will completely understand if this is not usable. But it is a huge blessing to be part of what you guys are doing and how you're uplifting our community and women. And I've shared it with many people, because this is what we need more of. This is the mirror that God gives us to measure each other by. What you guys share, not our imperfections and not our judginess, but by His word and His promises and His hope. And I just thank you so much for what you guys are doing.
Thanks for coming to the table. We hope today's conversation encouraged you as you seek Jesus in the big moments and the little ones. Check out the show notes for any scripture, resources, or whatever we talked about today. Feel free to share this episode, leave a comment, ask a question, and share your thoughts with us. Come back and join us next week as we chat about another spiritual practice that draws us closer to Jesus. If you haven't already, go follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And find us on socials to catch up if you don't have time to listen throughout the week, and now to find out what the next episode is all about. Also, we know you have things to say, examples to share, practical how-to wisdom to give. So take the opportunities this week to share with those around you and your community, and to share with us. All right, we'll see you next time.